Alright, so here we have a UK spec BMW 730 LD, so it's the E66 model, 2006, and these come with a Webasto Auxilliary engine heater fitted, but it can't be used as a parking heater because it doesn't have the circulation pump, doesn't have the changeover valve, and it's not programmed to be a parking heater. So on a UK spec car, when the ambient temperature is below 5 degrees C and the engine is cold, the auxiliary heater fires up to heat up the engine quicker from cold start. What I'm about to do today is install all the extra components and do the coding so that it can be started independent of the engine and heat the cabin before I get in the car. So this video probably won't be particularly entertaining. It's to help people who want to do this job on their car, because the information's all available online, but it's scattered and there's some sourcing challenges and there's no YouTube video showing how it's done, so I thought I'd just record clips as I go. So it's going to be a bit of a mess, but if you're looking to do this video along with the post that I make on bimmerforum, and I'll probably make a PDF available online, should make it easy for anyone to do this modification. Alright, so first step was to remove the wheel arch liner, got over there, and the engine under trim. So now with the wheel off, wheel arch liner out, we can see the Webasto unit, the double pipe that we're going to swap for the triple pipe. We can see that there's no changeover valve on there. We can see that there's no circulation pump, and we can see the wiring. So let's get to work. Okay, so my coolant drain plug on my radiator was broken, so I chose to remove the nuts securing the double hose to just get it out of the way of the plastic trim, and then pop that hose off to drain the coolant. That's not all of the engine coolant, so I'm just going to have to be careful when I bleed the system. I'll let you know how it goes. Just whipped off the gearbox under tray to allow me to drop this bit of plastic here. There's the Webasto exhaust. But what I've done that so I can drop that bit of plastic there and access the underneath, because I need to remove this to be able to put the circulation pump on. Okay, so now I've freed up the Webasto. There was just 2 bolts underneath. The exhaust pipe is a sliding fit on the flexi, and then it's just on these pegs into these blue rubber bushes, and it's really tight, so you just got to wiggle and wiggle and wiggle. I actually left the fuel hose connected down there, which is why I can't take it all the way off, and the wiring, so there's no strain on the wiring. The fuel hose is probably being stretched a bit more than it should be, but I'll keep an eye on it. And now I can remove the plastic cover here and route the wiring for my circulation pump. Right then, with the circulation pump, so we've got the pump, it has the almost straight fluid flow path. You can get these at all different angles, like 90 degrees, 60 degrees, 130, so on. You can swap the bases with these 4 Torx screws if you can source a separate base. This pump from BMW is 402 quid, mental. I paid 59 from a seller on eBay, Webasto spares or something like that. It's a Peerberg one, genuine, exactly what you'd get from BMW, but for like an eighth of the price. This is the hose that joins it to the Webasto unit. This is the P-clamp that bolts it to the Webasto unit with this little screw. So let's get that installed. Oh, one last thing. This is the wire. It comes pre-wired with a plug. That plugs straight into the Webasto controller. It's currently got a blanking plug in, as it is on the car now. Okay, so I'm in the process of installing the pump. Removing the hose that was on the bottom of the Webasto here was an absolute nightmare. I ended up dremeling the hose clamp off, Stanley blading the hose, and just ripping it all off that way. Really frustrating. So to get the pump on, I've put on this tiny short length of hose, and then if I can just get under here, this is going to be a terrible bit of footage, but there's actually a loop in the cast body of the Webasto that this P-clamp hooks into, and then the screw hole there, so the pump's going to sit here and obviously join to the coolant hose that we probably can't see because it's dark. Right then, so circulation pump's on, hose is connected. You got to undo these 3 bolts just to lift the bracket, and then there's a wire routing channel for the circulation pump. So you route the cable up there, and then it goes into the second port along. You remove this blanking plug, and then it plugs in. So now we've got a circulation pump. With these bolts, just be wary of shearing them off. They're pretty tight. They've been through however many dozen heat cycles, so just, you know, slowly work them back and forth, bit of penetrating oil. Next up is changeover valve and triple pipe, and then there's a couple of new hoses that join them together on as well. So changeover valve, I got mine used. I actually got a complete petrol burning Webasto unit with it, but I bought it for this. You can get them new from I think Gates make one, and it's sold through Autodoc, about 120 quid. What I really wanted was the electrical connector. I didn't want to faff finding pins and plugs and special crimping tools, so I bought that one. I hope it works. I've got brand new hoses. These were all from BMW, and the triple pipe was from BMW too. The only difference with the triple pipe and the double pipe is this, the middle pipe here that points off the back there. That's where essentially we get the extra port for the changeover valve, so otherwise it's the same as the double pipe. Okay, so the triple pipe's in, so in the engine bay we can see I've got that new port there, and that basically needs to join to that coolant hose there, which is yeah, where the customization is going to happen. The other two bits of the triple pipe, those hoses are clamped up, so we've just got that third pipe to join now. Now we're into the engine bay, where we need to add this third line to an existing coolant hose to link up to the new pipe on the triple pipe. So this is the original coolant hose from the engine bay, or rather one that I bought on eBay, and I'm just showing what I'm going to do here. I've cut out the corner of the hose. This used to be all one piece. Added in this stainless steel 19mm T section, and that's going to allow me to add another length of hose from here to here in the engine bay. I had bought a piece of flexible silicone hose to do this, but it's a 19mm inner diameter, and this fitting is 18mm, so a silicone hose won't seal on that. So what I've done is I've bought spare, just random BMW coolant hoses on eBay, pretty cheap, and I'm going to cut a section out of one that hopefully matches up perfectly, and see how it goes. Right, as you can see, I've cut that hose. The difficult bit is access, so you need a super sharp blade. Piercing the hose is the hardest part. Once you've pierced, the blade cuts around it quite nicely, so put a Jubilee clip on, loosely tighten it, and use that as your cutting guide. Access to that bit down there with the clamp-on's awful, but cutting the next bit's going to be easy, and then we can get our T-piece in. So that is the T-piece in, not quite tightened up yet, and you can see I've just got to go from the T-piece to the triple hose fitting, so it is a curved path, but I've got the replacement hose that I bought on eBay is one of the ones I've just cut, so it's the hose I've just cut to add the T-piece. That's what I bought here, and I just practiced cutting for the T-piece on it. So one of these sections with a little bend at the end is probably going to do the job, so I'll try that. Right, so I cut this section of hose from the replacement part number for the existing hose on the car that I just cut. So I bought a spare, cut it. These are the dimensions. With that slight bend, I think it's going to be pretty much a perfect fit. That hose solution is in. Looks a bit of a mess with the Jubilee clips, but it's all tightened up solid. It goes to the new outlet of the triple pipe. So you see that slight kink in the tube, all that's necessary. And then the other hoses on the triple pipe down there, all tightened up. I'll double check them. And then in the wheel well, triple pipe, obviously, down to changeover valve, in there, pump. So you can see I'm now ready to move on to wiring. I only had 2 of these nuts, so I've used one for the triple pipe, one for the changeover valve, and then I'll probably just never put one on the other one and leave it as it is and hope for the best. So now we're on to wiring. So for the wiring, the changeover valve has 2 wires. It's just a simple solenoid valve, so a positive and a negative. The negative, the ground wire, that should go through this grommet, and then it fastens to a ground post behind the headlight. I don't want to mess with that grommet, so I'm just going to pass it through here. The positive wire from the changeover valve goes to the 6-pin plug of the Webasto, and you need to populate pin 4. So pin 4's just got a blanking plug in it, so that needs to be populated. I'm actually going to cut this off, and I've bought a fully populated new plug, so I'll just resolder all the connectors. I'll show you that in a sec. And I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm actually going to, rather than just join the changeover valve to pin 4 here, I'm going to take a wire off pin 4, take this, spiral wrap them, and go all the way up to the engine bay, the same way that I take the ground wire, because I actually want to put in a solution where I can choose whether the Webasto heats the heater matrix for the cabin or heats the engine. The IHKA, like heating and ventilation module, throws a fault code if the changeover valve isn't present when the Webasto requests it. So I'm thinking if I just have a switch that switches either, you know, connection to the changeover valve, or just a dummy load through a resistor to make this think that the changeover valve's there, and then I'll have control of whether we go through the engine bay or into the heater matrix. Alright, so I've just stripped back the fabric wrap on the wiring, and I'm basically going to swap the original connector for my brand new replacement that's got the well, all the pins populated. So I only need 4, you know, those original 3 and the new pin to the changeover valve. So I'll just sort of terminate all the others in a nice neat way, just in case I ever want to use them. I don't actually know what the others are for. I've got my new connector wired on, pin 4, which is a new addition. Like I said, I've just got that coming to a long wire because I'm going to join it to the changeover valve in the engine bay. I'm going to feed it through that grommet there up to the engine bay, join it there, because in future I'm going to modify it to take control of the changeover valve. But yeah, I've got obviously 2. This plug was fully populated, so I've got 2 that aren't used. I've just capped them off with a bit of heat shrink. So now I'm going to spiral wrap that and lay the wires neatly in the existing routing points. Right, so we're plugged in here. We've got the 6 pin with our new pin 4 to the changeover valve. We've got what I think is the main power to the Webasto. That was an original connection. That one there is also an original connection, and the only additional one on the end is the circulation pump, which we wired up way earlier in the video. So I'll put the plastic cover over them, pop that back up there, and then we're done in the wheel well, apart from refitting trim. I routed the wires up along the existing path around there and through this grommet here into the engine bay, and I'll show you the connection up there shortly. To get this plastic cover back on over the wiring, I've just had to unbolt the 2 bolts underneath from the Webasto and pull it off those plugs again to fit that in. So remember that. In the engine bay, I brought the wires through that grommet as I said, and then I've just routed it along the path of other wires, and the ground comes down to this point here behind the headlight. So there's the M6 crimp terminal on the end of my wire, and that's just underneath that nut on the M6 post. And then, yeah, like I said, I've brought my changeover valve wires here. If you did this normally, this connection would happen, like these 2 white wires would be joined together, like right underneath on top of the Webasto. I've brought them up here because I might have some sort of switch here to manually switch between heating the engine or heating the cabin at some point in the future. So now it's time to fill the coolant. I've already started actually. I removed the engine cover to access this vent, loosen that off and fill until coolant comes out of there. Right, so now we're in the car, battery charger's on, I've topped up the coolant. Oh, the coolant did need a bit of extra attention to fill after the way I drained it from in the wheel well. You know, I filled it up till it overflowed out the bleed on top of the EGR cooler, started the engine and it dropped way down. I had to keep topping up, and if I squeezed the big top hose to the radiator I could hear that it was just air in there, so it took quite a few cycles of filling and bleeding. I didn't have the engine on for all that, just for the first bit. So I've just programmed the IHKA, MMIF, MMIGT, PMA, SHZH, TMBH, TMBT, TMFH and TMFT modules. Minor updates to all of those files. They're all online. They'll be in the bimmerforum thread that I post, but I didn't create it. I copied it from other people. So now we have aux heating showing on the dash, and it's moment of truth time to see if this has all worked. So I'm not sure how this is gonna go, because my coolant's apparently already pretty warm, but I think this scale's actually Fahrenheit, even though it says Celsius, because it goes to 212, which is 100 Celsius. So let's assume that, and I'm gonna turn on aux heating here. So I've pressed that, got this red light flashing. We've gone to auto even though this was off. Glow plug's powered. I can hear the fuel pump doing things. Let's open those up. So obviously we're cool air now. So apparently our pump's on, water pump's on, fuel pump's on, magnetic valve, I'm guessing that's our changeover valve that we added. That's doing stuff. Quite a voltage drop. I've got a battery charger on, but it's a very weak trickle charger. Okay, so this thing's getting hot, obviously, burning off the coolant that I spilt on it and the water, which is good, I suppose. Oh yeah, that hose is warm. Hot, in fact. So we're pumping out hot water, drawing in cool. It's hot all the way up, like really hot. And then in the engine bay, I can hear coolant flowing. Hoses are nice and warm. So check the level. Still a little over max, in fact. I thought that'd drop, maybe it will when the engine starts. But we're hot. Alright, so it's been on for some time now. Toasty warm in here. It's a pretty mild day anyway. 13 degrees in February. But yeah, blowing warm air. Coolant temperature 171 Fahrenheit, whatever that is in Celsius. Yeah, fantastic.